Good evening. Good evening. What up, though? Welcome to the DW Project. It's where we have blueprints and we have outlooks on our guests as well as myself. I'm your host, Deshaun Wallace. Before I get into anything, before I get to tonight's guest in our conversation, I truly want to take the time to give a special thanks to any and everybody that contributed to the success of episode one. Over 1,600 downloads. I was not expecting that at all. I appreciate anybody that had anything to do with it, from my producers, Lucretia Rogers, Raina Love, Dr. Crystal Lawson. Thank you for your time and your commitment to the show. And any and everybody from Brand Ambition Network, from Detroit CEO Media, any and all that, and this up from here. We gonna keep it moving. All right. Tonight's conversation. It's a conversation amongst black men, and hopefully it reaches everyone's ears and hearts and minds as far as opening up and taking a new approach on certain things. Knowing your worth. We've all been there. We've all speculated. If you're lying, this ain't the room for you tonight. Not, straight up. We did this real shit in here tonight.
Right.
My guest this evening, it's a bright brother I know around the way, an accomplished DJ, a graduate of the prestigious Wilberforce University, and a proud member of the Detroit Lions, rehabilitated fan commission.
We back. We here now.
Shit, it took long enough. Man, I got people telling me, hey, I thought you was done with them. I was, and I'm back.
Yeah.
I've been a fan since y'all had Pump It Up Spritz and Saucony shoes and shit. Y'all better leave me alone.
We've been since 57.
I can come and go as I did will please. I got residency and shit.
Hell yeah.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show this evening. My guest, Mr. Dion Hicks.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I checked out your first episode. I was like, okay, he put it down. But we've been talking about me and you doing a podcast for a minute. So when I seen you actually did it, I was proud of you, I like what you put down. So
you're gonna be an intricate part of this as well, man. You go come back a couple times, man. We go have some.
I'm ready.
Real talk. We go have some real talk. But tonight's conversation, man. Knowing your worth. You personally, how do you identify with knowing your worth as a black man?
Well, the first thing that I say is knowing my worth as a black person, as a black man, I would say is it starts from within, because everybody has these superficial values and they change. Everything's subjective. And I had to learn that myself, because if I compare myself to the next man, I'm going to lose. Because there's always a better person. There's always going to be a better person out here, but you don't know what it took for them to get there, what help they had. So me knowing my worth, I had to know what I was going to do to make myself a better person. And then you align yourself with other great people in their way. I don't compare myself. That's the first thing. Knowing your worth, it shouldn't be comparing yourself to someone else.
I agree. I know for me personally, knowing your worth starts with self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And being aware enough to being vulnerable to identify or gauge where your worth is. I think a lot of times when we look to second and third hand parties to gauge what our worth should be for ourselves. And if you don't have that awareness to be introspective, to assess, where do I view myself? Where do I value myself? Which in turn spills into other aspects of how you function and how you move. It all starts with being vulnerable enough. And like I spoke with Dr. Crystal last week about black men being vulnerable enough to identify, where their mental health needs are in that fashion. Same thing goes with identifying your worth. But I feel like due to societal perception, we're not supposed to outwardly, speak on or value ourselves in an expressive fashion because of how we may be perceived, in instance of that. So I think being vulnerable enough and being aware enough in the sense of having to be introspective to figure out what your worth is, that's where it all starts for me.
Well, to go off of what you just said, I think the problem that we can't get to where we need to be with that self-awareness is we allow the past to dictate our future. And what I mean by that is, like, there's a lot of, like, with the whole patriarchy, everybody can use that as an excuse to not get better. And like, there was a saying, I'm trying to remember, he said that tradition is pushed by a lot of dead people.
Mm.
And I was like, well, damn, so you're doing things because of somebody that's not even here no more. And then you find yourself in this loop of stuff that shouldn't even matter to you. And for me, my self awareness, I had to realize from my upbringing to the evolution. And evolution is the most important. If you don't have the capacity to grow and learn, because we're always supposed to grow, we're always supposed to learn more. People get to a certain age, us as black men, we think we know it all. We can't be told nothing. Like, oh, can't no woman tell me nothing. One of my biggest, a lot of black women in my life helped me get to where I am or taught me something. You'll never hear me say nothing crazy like that. So we use a lot of excuses and a lot of tradition to not allow us to be self-aware, not to move on. But me, I can't say that I use that. I'm fair in my thought. I'll never think that is everything is finite. It's always one side to the coin to the other side of the sheet. But I'll never, be so oblivious to think that I can't learn.
And I was conversing with a friend of mine earlier today, and we were talking about the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And what came up was the name of the podcast in terms of why I picked the name that I picked.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that we're going to be evolving projects for as long as we're on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, learning is finite. There's always going to be different gauges of what you should learn, what you should apply, and things of that nature. And if you're that headstrong to where you're not willing to receive and place these and apply these principles,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be stuck where you are. Like you said, as far as the tradition is concerned. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
tradition can and should be fluid,
Yeah.
without taking away from the notion of what the core of the tradition actually is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of times we feel like when it's not packaged the way that we want it packaged, it takes away from what it actually is. And you
Mm-hmm.
can't think like that and you can't have progressive thinking and coming from a stagnant place.
Well, actually, it ain't even just from that standpoint. A lot of people love to pick and choose. Those the people that get on my goddamn nerves. You choose what you want to listen to. It's like, wait, hold up. That, or even the Bible in a sense. They'd be like, oh, well, did the Bible says this? Whoa, did you read the rest of that passage? Because it also says something else behind it. So when you get around people like that, I just totally disconnect
Mhm.
because I don't like being around hypocrites, whether male or female. You gonna talk that shit, and I'll be like, nope, I'm gone. Because the more you are around those type of people, the more you can be influenced. And influence, no matter how strong of a person you may think you are, if they keep beating you over the head and beating you over the head, the next thing you know, subconsciously you spewing the same bullshit that they talking. So I'm
Mhm.
I'm straight.
And we are creatures of habit. We are creatures of influence to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
But if anything that takes away from the core of who you are, with the influence of you being beat over the head and beat over the head, I think that kind of subliminally speaks to where your worth is.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of us know what we take in and what we should take in and what we should build on. But if you're just sitting there because the masses are basically dealing with the same thing or receiving the same thing, that doesn't mean that you have to do it as well. But I think a lot of us fall victim to that.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people, this is the thing, this is the reality that a lot of people don't want to uh, come to,
Mm-hmm.
that there are more malleable people in the world than it is strong people.
Mm-hmm.
The strong minded can move through stuff like that, but there's more malleable people that, like, social media is the greatest tool to control people. Like I tell people, if I didn't have a business, DJ Dion, if I didn't have a business, I wouldn't be on Facebook, I wouldn't be on TikTok, I wouldn't be on none of it, because 99% of it is bullshit. It is just nothing but negativity. But when you come through, something like this is something I'm going to be a part of, because this is a talking point to show people it's better stuff to talk about. There's a jumping point to where we can be positive and move in the right light.
And before we jumped on in reference to the man bashing and the women bashing and shit like that, we all need each other, man.
Yes,
We all fucking need each other.
yes,
So the placing blame in one party, we all fucked up to a certain degree. Can we just admit that? We just admit that. I mean, we all need some form of something as
yeah,
far as refurbishing and things of that nature. We all need something.
yeah,
So the place the blame game and hearing the podcast about, niggas ain't this, bitches ain't that.
hmm,
Like, it keeps us in the place of stagnation. But I want to touch on the point in what you stated as far as, being strong minded and being able to maneuver through that, and how they're more strong people or malleable people than strong people in a sense. A lot of people bring those things from a place of stagnation. Like, I stood firm, I stood on 10 toes and what I believed in. A lot, that's not strength all the time.
it's not. It's a
You're
facade.
doing yourself, you're doing yourself more of a disservice if you're
Uh,
not willing to do certain things and certain assets that would add to that in a sense. But if you just speaking in place, I stand on that. I stand on that. I mean, which is cool. I mean, that's your word. That's your word. But at
mhm.
the same time, where's that guy?
When you hear a lot of people talk like that, I don't even want to say it comes from a place of security, because I don't like, there's a lot of buzzwords that I just refuse to even use, because that's just, and insecurity is one of those words. But when it comes from a sense of not knowing your self-worth,
Not knowing yourself. Exactly.
like you say, you hear, I'm 10 toes down for my block. For what? Like, that block ain't doing shit for you. Some white man on that shit, and when he wants you gone, you gone. But you was 10 toes down though. You sound like a fucking idiot. But they don't know their worth. They don't know that there's more to this world than that block, that city, that town, that state. There's a whole freaking world. Like, I have a, not to call nobody out, but I know a lot of people that haven't even left the city of Detroit. How fucking sad is that?
That shit's ridiculous, bro.
That shit is sad as hell. Having not ever left the city. I can't. I'm out of in 2 weeks. I'm taking my ass to Jamaica for my birthday. I'm out of here. I got a passport. I'm gonna see the world. A lot of people are just stuck in a bubble. They stuck in a bubble, and they refuse to learn. They refuse to see. They don't. I mean, it's tunnel vision. They don't even move left, right.
Right. Right. Right. And I think that goes to a greater issue in reference to, do you deem yourself valuable enough to even want to know more? Do you feel like, because I think a lot of people feel like they don't deserve to know more because of where it may come from. And a lot of times the source of that can be a little toxic, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
But if you don't deem value yourself to know you deserve to gain more knowledge, like, I don't want to be the smartest nigga in the room. If you the smartest nigga in the room, you in the wrong room, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, right,
And
right.
with that being said, even though we come from places where certain people just know what they know, and certain people just feel what they feel.
Hmm.
But at what point do you feel like that there's more to it than just 7 Mile and Gratiot? No disrespect, love the zone. But there's more to things and more to life in terms of exploring outside of that. And I feel like that we put ourselves in the bubble and put ourselves in the blender with not willing to be able to even expound on that in any way, form, or fashion. And then we look up 20 years that passes by. It's like, damn, I
Mhm.
ain't did this, I ain't did that. We
Yep,
got all the same 24 hours in the day.
sure do. Well, I think the first thing, knowledge is scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary to a lot of people.
It is.
Just as much as facts and statistics, they're scary to a lot of people because it breaks their reality. A lot of people are delusional. There are a lot of delusional people, and they figure if I say this so much and so many times, I'll begin to believe it. But if I look towards the truth, it's going to break my reality down, and it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
I, just like you say, 7 Mile. I'm Mac and Bewick. I'm
Mm-hmm.
born. I'm the hood. So
Mm-hmm.
did I ever want to stay there? No. I love my hood, but going through school and the little stuff that they taught us, because they didn't teach us nothing what we needed to know, but it was enough to pique my interest to realize there's a greater thing going on except outside of Mac and Bewick.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's still some people I know that's still on Mac and Bewick, and it's like, Negro, why are you still here? But I mean, again, like I said, I think it's scary and it breaks down people's reality. And but at the same time, who am I to judge? I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
judge you. I'm not better than you. I just chose to do different things in life.
So at what point do you feel like that when it comes to knowing your value and your worth in reference to that, is there anything that you feel, is there anything that's subconscious that you feel should be able to propel you to do that? Or do you feel like everybody just has their own rate of worth and growth in terms of where they need to proceed to?
Well, that's a two-pronged thing. For me, I
Yeah.
think it was a sense of, I know I've always wanted a family. I wanted to be married,
Mm-hmm.
wanted kids, and I knew my worth. I needed to build me and build my worth so I can accomplish that goal. That's for me, and I think that's where it starts for someone. Someone, you need a goal,
Mm-hmm.
and if you do it yourself, then you're fine. But a lot of people, they allow society to dictate their worth, because the biggest thing is, we all know that social media gonna tell you a man's worth is in paying bills.
Mm.
That's what they telling us. They swear they not saying it, but if you get on social media every 5 seconds, it's somebody saying a man has to pay bills, and what's the three P's: process, provide, some bullshit that I'd be like, I'm so tired of that shit. But I'm not saying it's prevalent, because you should, be able to do those things. But that's not my worth.
Mm.
Because the biggest thing is, we all know. Oh, okay, we good.
A little back for you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah, but my worth starts with my word. My word is my bond. If I tell you I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do that shit. And if I can't do it, I'm gonna let you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I, and that's just for me. Everybody don't believe in that.
Yeah.
And you have to learn that the hard way, and not. And then I also had to learn to not take that shit personally, because someone don't, look as their word as their bond. Everybody. It goes back to, like I said, it's just subjective. Like, let me ask you, what do you feel your worth is as a man?
My worth as a man is at the height of what I perceive myself.
Mm-hmm.
The perception of myself is I'm an evolving project. Am I the same person I was 7 years ago when I was in the height of grief and depression and all that shit?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm 7 years better.
Mm-hmm.
I view myself. And this in the next 7 years, I want to be 7 years better. In
Mm-hmm.
the value in that. And what comes with that is, like I stated earlier, the awareness of that. And which leads to my next question to you, bro. Not to just jump off subject, but how does your value, how does it play a role in terms of you pursuing relationships?
Well, so before I answer that,
Mm,
I used to date someone, and I asked her a question.
mm,
I asked her, I said, how much a year do you need to make in order to be deemed broke?
mm,
And she responded, I think she might have said, like, if a man makes under 50,000, he's broke. And so at that moment, I was making under 50. I don't now, but at
mm.
that time, I was under 50. And so I had to look at it and be like, is this my worth? Like, am I really broke because I don't have the number that someone else said? And so I had to reevaluate myself, and then I had to say, well, hold up. I know what works for me. And so these set of principles that I have, I need to find someone that has those same principles. Because if you don't have those same principles, you don't have a foundation. And that's what a lot of people don't get when they go find a mate. You don't have a foundation. It's a lot of fucking, it's a lot of fucking, a lot of fucking, and then what's next? Because at some point it's gonna tail off a little bit, and now y'all ain't got shit to talk about because y'all ain't even friends because y'all just start off fucking. For me,
Damn.
I always went out and I found someone that our foundation is alike.
And you know, it's funny that you bring that up. Um, I've been in all types of shit, man. Trauma bonds,
Mm,
situationships,
shit.
all types of shit,
Them
man.
trauma bonds be some shit, bro.
Bad motherfuckers, dog. Bad motherfuckers, man. Especially when you in your own dark place in your own shit, man.
Hmm.
Bad motherfucker, man.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
say this, man. In my case, when it comes to pursuing relationships and establishing worth, it took me a minute to really kind of put a gauge on that.
Mm,
I think given in the fact that I was so submerged in my 20s with just partying, fucking around for sport, I didn't really take the time to pour into myself.
mm,
I really didn't take the time to pour into myself. And
mm,
in turn, what comes with that is when certain things come to surface and you're not able to identify why these certain things come to place because you didn't take the time to pour in yourself to add value in the sense of what you need to identify that.
mm,
Um, Come around to my 30s, dealing with situations. My grandmother passed. God bless my baby. Um, and a lot came with that. I poured so much into our personal relationship, and when she passed, it took a piece of me with it.
yeah. Yeah.
And it really, really took a lot out of me to where I didn't have the identity or the self worth at that point in time, dealing with the wave of emotions that I was dealing with.
Hmm.
Like I spoke last week to my therapist about the aspect of utilizing your healing through people.
Hmm.
When you don't have the value and when you don't have the identity of who you are and you're trying to fill a void, you'll subject yourself to just latching on to shit and
Yeah.
just fucking around and putting that energy in a toxic atmosphere, which only boomerangs it comes back around to you. So
Hmm.
next thing you know, you'd have been through 4 situationships, 3 trauma bonds, two other fake ass relationships,
Hmm.
and like I mentioned earlier about being vulnerable enough to know and have that conversation with yourself, like, what do you really want? Where's your value? Where do
Yeah.
you stand with this? How do you plan on standing from that? And in retrospect, a lot of those situations were really valuable to me
Hmm.
because if I didn't have those things to experience, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have anything to learn from.
You had to learn. Yeah.
I
Let me
would have. Go ahead.
what can you pinpoint when you finally realized that those were bad for you? When did you take that turn?
Maybe 2019.
Mm-hmm,
Um, I've always kind of been a forward thinker in a sense,
mm-hmm,
and I started seeing the situationships or whatever just kind of repeating themselves, repeating themselves. And I'm thinking to myself, like, it's odd that this shit keeps adding the same, keeps taking place in the same fashion. What's the
mm-hmm,
common denominator? The common
mm-hmm.
denominator was me.
Yep, yep.
The common denominator was me. And
Mm-hmm.
because I was in a certain point of being toxic, which I can attest to, it's toxic as hell, man. I got a friend. I got a friend, and I don't do the name dropping shit. But if she's tuned in, she knows who I'm referring to. I have a friend of mine who, maybe a couple months before my grandmother passed, would always check on me, would come by and check on me, and in the midst of my grandmother, after my grandmother passed, she came around and I displayed hella toxic energy towards her.
Mm-hmm,
Which was uncontrollable in my aspect back then.
mm-hmm.
But every time I see her, when I started gaining more clarity about where I was, I would vehemently, I would apologize to her every chance that I get. It's a beautiful woman. She accepted it. She knew I was going through some shit.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I had to have the self awareness of you're the common denominator in a lot of this shit, man.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
if I didn't have those relationships to even look back on, like, damn, why is this shit happening this way? I wouldn't even address my value or
Yeah,
my self worth because
yeah,
I wouldn't have had anything to gauge it from.
yeah, yeah. We definitely still have to take even the bad relationships and the bad things, like say even the toxicity, we have to use them to learn from and what not to do.
They all supposed to happen, man. They all
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah,
happen.
yeah. The shit don't hurt, but
Mm,
you know, but it gives you that sense of what not to do because I've had my share of toxicity when I was younger.
mm-hmm.
And when we were young we didn't call it that, but in reflection we know, yeah, we was on some toxic ass bullshit.
Yeah.
But one girl coming through the front door while the other girl's leaving through the back door, hey, you
Straight
know
up.
us. But
Straight up.
but even in my story, I know your story just as much because when I lost my grandmother, it was the exact same. It was
Nah.
the exact same. And so I knew what you were going through when you lost your grandmother because my grandmother was my best friend. Emulate, when I say if she walked and hopped on one leg, I was right behind her doing the exact same thing. So that, and I don't want to call it trauma because that it shaped your love and it shaped you, and you had to realize you know there'll never be another one. And those points can be it can be depressing. I went through a bit of, I've had maybe 2 to 3 bouts with depression,
Mm,
over a lifetime.
mm,
And I thank God that I had people around me to
mm,
help me, and they didn't push me but they helped me.
mm,
They stayed around, like you said, the young lady that came around and helped you. She was there. God put that particular person in your life to keep you from falling totally off.
mm,
And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have those angels. And
mm,
so, and I commend you for acknowledging her, saying, hey, thank you. I was on some bullshit. I may have said some things or did some things that I didn't mean to do, but you stuck through it. Because a lot of people were like, "What the fuck you did?"
They don't give a
But
fuck. They wouldn't have
yeah,
gave a fuck. They would.
I was just saying it to be nice. You were like,
You're
because half these motherfuckers will just say it because it sounds good, but
straight up.
at
Straight
least,
up.
at least that young lady was there for you. For me, there was a time for me, and I'll talk about my last bout. Maybe that was in 2016, 15, 16. I had gotten laid off from my job. That was the first time I ever got laid off.
Mm.
I wasn't saving money. I was being stupid, so I didn't have any money, and I was a day away from getting evicted out of my apartment.
Mm.
I hit a low. Like that was the only time in my life that I ever had to borrow money. That was the
Mm.
one time I ever had to borrow money, and that was gut wrenching to actually have to ask for help. And that's another topic that us as black men we need to touch on.
Mm.
But I had to rebuild myself, and that's a depressive state. And sometimes when you're in that depressive state, people can take advantage of you while you're in that state.
Man, what?
And yeah, yeah, because mentally I was gone. That like maybe 16, 17, 15, 16, 17, I wasn't even you could have pulled a wool over my eyes because I was so focused on the depression that I was in a relationship with somebody that I shouldn't have not the fuck been with. And it was like that. You want to talk about toxic? That
Bruh.
shit was toxic, but
Bruh.
we'll go past that.
Well, yeah, we'll go
Yeah,
back.
yeah, that shit was toxic.
Yes, sir.
But I think depression is. We need to talk about it. We need to talk about our emotions. And I know it's scary because society has set it up to where a man can't talk about his emotions. Because if he talks about his emotions, oh, you being a little bitch.
Man, little bitch. I talked about that
You know,
last week. Yes, sir.
yeah, yeah. Whereas now, what's the new buzzword? Oh, he being sassy or zazzy or some bullshit. It's like,
Icy,
yeah,
saucy, all
yeah,
that shit.
yeah. It's just
Yeah,
like,
all that shit.
it's like I wish y'all make up y'all minds. Y'all say y'all want to talk about mental health, but when we talk about mental health, we get ridiculed. What are we supposed to do?
And I think a lot of that too is you got to check the source on where that shit is coming from. Your shit ain't even together, but here you are trying to gauge and judge what the fuck you think is going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And a lot of times I try to tell people that someone's outlook on you is just their perspective, but you don't have to take their perspective as your own.
Right.
And when it comes to like people saying, you don't know how to lead, but what's your definition of know how to lead? Just because I told you no, and all of a sudden I don't know how to lead. Oh, he told me no. Oh, that nigga don't know how to lead.
Yeah.
See,
You hate your mama.
yeah. So you have to take into account the source of where all that shit is coming from, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't let that opinion be your opinion of yourself, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the aspect of that grieving and that depression, because I was in a pretty dark spot, and I'm not the most well back then I wasn't the most transparent about my feelings. Like I've always been kind of Joe cool, and my way of addressing shit is not addressing shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was times back then, man, where I ain't give a fuck about life, death. Most times I ain't want to come out the house, but here I am, smiling, fake as hell,
Yeah.
trying to front on the shit, and nobody probably not even knowing anything was wrong with me.
Right. Right.
But that's where I was internalizing all that shit. And
Mm-hmm.
all that shit just kind of manifested into depression, anxiety, and all that. I know for me, maybe around 2019, I started kind of coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back in retrospect of all the relationships and situationships and friendships, is when I started having that conversation as far as establishing boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boundaries was the first lesson I learned coming out of that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
So,
being not letting anybody talk crazy to you in a sense of where you just kind of like, no,
mm,
like you have to that boundaries are necessary as hell in all tiers of association with people, friendships,
yeah.
relationships,
Yep. Yep.
family,
Yep.
all that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
They
what
boundaries are more important. I mean, they should be carried off as your values.
mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times people look at someone else's values is, oh, it's not that serious, and that means that person's not the person for you. Because the moment you allow them to break that boundary, they're just gonna run over you. They don't respect you, and even if, like, if your boundary is something just wild, you either accept that they are that way or you leave. A lot of times you see all these, like I said, with the whole, back and forth with the men and women online. I'm not arguing with nobody about my boundaries. I'm not arguing. I
Non-negotiable.
if you ask me to define it, I'm cool with that. I'll define it, but I'm not about to argue with you, because you have your boundaries and I'm not about to argue with you. I'm not about to tell you, oh, well, that's silly. No, that's you. So
Right.
we're going to, it goes back to what I said about the foundation. You find people with the same principles or the same boundaries, or at least the boundaries that you are willing to deal with.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of rule breakers and assholes that, tell somebody else that their boundaries are silly. That won't be me.
Oh no, that's one of the things that should never be non-negotiable, because you giving someone the reins to control your shit,
Hmm.
how you move. How you go tell me where to put my motherfucking picket fence at? Hey, motherfucker, this is where it's at. This is where I put it at.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not picking it up. I'm not putting no more X's on the ground and moving back. No.
Hmm. It's a lot. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of people trying to tell other people how to live their lives. What, or like, go back to what you said about being a high value or a value man. Now we
Mm.
don't even say the high value, but you have women telling men what a valued man is, and men telling women what a valued woman is.
Hey, woman is,
Like,
yeah.
how? How? How the fuck can a cow tell a horse what the hell? It's just like, obviously, and you just watch them go back and forth. It's like a dumbass tennis match. You like, boop,
Yep.
boop,
Yep.
boop, boop. Like, y'all sound dumb as hell. I'm never gonna tell a woman what she should and what she should be doing to be a high value woman. And I for damn sure you're not about to tell me what the fuck to do. Like, you either like who I am or you can kick rocks. Simple.
Subscribe to that. Subscribe to that. Is knowing your worth an internal measure of how you value yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Expound on that, folks.
If you don't know your worth or where you come from, let me look at this question as a whole again.
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking about the second question?
Three.
Three. Your worth, an internal measure of how you value yourself. How can you not value yourself if you don't know your worth? Because there's a lot of people to say, I know my worth. What have you done? What have you done to make yourself worth? Not even worthy, but worth. Because a lot of people out here, they feel they deserve stuff just because they exist. You've done absolutely nothing but exist. And it's like, what? But for me, like I said, I know my worth and my value is high because I put in the work, and my work is still ongoing. That's the most important part, that my work is still ongoing. Every day I'm looking to get better. I'm looking to learn. I'm looking to find ways. Just like last night, I was down at Soul on Ice. It's a new club, and
Yeah.
they have their own equipment and they use CDJs. I've never used CDJs before. I use, controllers. I could have ran tail and just said, "Oh no, I'm good." No, I got my ass in there. I studied. I'm starting to use them boys because I'm going to evolve. Now that's something else I can add to my repertoire that
Yeah.
can make more worth and more worthy, my value is now higher. So if I'm going to continue to do better, then my worth is high. Now, everybody doesn't may not view that, but I don't need that for everybody. That's just for me. And the people that want to be in my life, they value me because of something like that.
100%, 100%. And I'm pretty much in the same boat.
Yeah.
Like you asked me earlier about how I value myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's finite. It's fluid. It's
Mm-hmm.
fluid. It's fluid in the upper echelon of the value. I'm working extremely hard to not drop it below anything below that. And like I said, we're going to be for ongoing projects for as long as we're on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 7 years better than what I was back then. Like I stated that earlier.
I
I'm
agree.
looking, I'm looking to be 7 years better. Like you saw me back then, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
night and day. It's night and day. This we know all glory to God. You know what I
Even
mean?
how we talk, even the conversations, we've evolved from that 7 years ago. You know, we could have actually been in that negative toxicity type talk, but you grow and you realize that shit ain't helping
Shit ain't helping at all.
nothing. It's time to do something different. You know, my cousin, you know, when I first got on Facebook, I used to just I used to do the question of the days. And so I would just you remember I used to do the question of the
Yeah,
day. So I
yeah,
was
yeah,
going at people. It's going back and forth, going back and forth.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
you gonna listen. The people used to love it. But my cousin pulled me to the side one day and he was like, cuz, why do you go so hard? I'm like, cause they need to learn. He was like, they not gonna learn. You wasting your time. You wasting your breath. And the way he said it, I was like, a light went off. And I was like, it was ding. I was like, God damn, he right. And in that sense, there were a lot of people, and even to this day, they'll still remember me like that. They'll remember that's the dude who used to have a question days, always want to go at people. That
Mhm.
ain't me no more. That was
Yeah,
like you say 7 years ago.
yeah, yeah.
It's evolution. That ain't me no more. You cannot get me to get in those conversations at all. The moment somebody getting them things to be like, I feel like Deuce.
and,
They,
it, and, it, and it's funny that you mentioned that because I don't know if you may have noticed either. When's the last time you see me do a no judgment zone question?
you did used to do those.
My therapist had reached out to me one day, and I was kind of like going on a series of maybe about 2, 3 a day or some shit like that. And she tapped in with me and was like, I really appreciate the platform that you provide as far as your questions, but
Mhm.
she was like, do you feel like that they need that though? Like, are they asking for that?
Yeah, yeah,
And I was kind of thinking like, damn, am I really? I mean, in my mind, I'm doing a good deed in terms of trying to, get people to talk about this and talk about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But the way she broke it down in terms of, did they ask for that help? Like, are you offering help that no one is actually inquired about?
Hmm.
And once she broke that down, and once it started festering, and once I started thinking about it, I'm like, damn, she got a point. And since then, I haven't really done much of it, man, because even though that I come from a place of healthiness in terms of my dialogue or try to be that way, it's a lot of comments in those questions, man, that you know he talking shit, and I be like, damn, man, I feel kind of bad because I kind of placed a platform on it. But with
Yeah,
that being said, man, I just kind of fell back from it in the first. If people want to talk, people know how to reach out to me, but
yeah, yeah.
you know,
But and I think both of our stories really did measure it. Like you said, your therapist was like, "Hey, is this really necessary?" And then
yeah,
like,
yeah,
like, ding, yeah, man.
yeah,
I mean, because when we started doing it, I'm pretty sure, just like you, I did it for entertainment. It was fun to set ablaze and go back and go, whoa,
word.
But I mean, because the shit was freaking hilarious. Because
Yeah.
it gotten so big to the point where when I wasn't doing, people was like, hey, why you not doing it? You okay? I'm like, all right, man. That's enough of the toxic bullshit. Because I used to get people pissed. I got deleted so many goddamn times. I never knew I could just piss people off, but but that, like I said, we left that. It's over. It's time to talk about something positive, and that's like one of the reasons why I even came on your show is because this is positive. Like I told my girl, I'm just like, she's like, you say you don't like podcasts. I'm like, yeah, I don't. But this one's different. We can sit here and we can talk about something, positive, and see that if we can reach one person that's listening, we win it.
You won. We
We won.
won.
You're not gonna reach the masses. Like I said, everybody negative is more public.
Mm.
It's more people. If you look at like this show, unfortunately, it'll never be on the level of a shade room because shade room is full of bullshit. People love bullshit.
Bullshit.
This is gold. This is what shit out. This is where we can talk and people can hear two black men coming together and having a conversation and bouncing ideas off of each other and bouncing theories and seeing, hey, all black men ain't on the bullshit. There's some bad ones out here. Yeah. But me personally, I feel like it's more good than bad.
Yeah.
But bad just gets more publicity than good. It's easy to talk about the bad. Just like
Yeah.
the black fathers. Like if you've ever noticed, I shout out black fathers. I'm not a father.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am a father, but not a father. I don't have any kids, but at one point in time, I was taking care of my nephew like he was my own son. The boy was in my house eating up all my goddamn food. He was my son.
Straight up.
But I'm an advocate of speaking for black fathers and black fathers' rights because it's easy to get up here and say, "Oh, black fathers ain't shit." The numbers don't tell that. The numbers say that black fathers are in children's life more than any other demographic, but they don't want to talk about that. The numbers show it. Now, it could be better. It can definitely be better. I wish 100% of black fathers in 100% of children's lives because some of the bad things that's going on in this world today can be healed from that. But let's not sit up here and beat us down like we not there.
Mm-hmm.
There's black fathers, there's uncles, there's godfathers. I have 2 godchildren that I love like they mine. And you make a phone call, I'm right there. So you can't tell me that we not there because we are there. But see, you about to get me going, so I'm a chill. I'm a chill.
Well, man, you already know how I feel about that, man. From down to my nieces to my nephews,
Mm-hmm.
you
I see how
know,
you love on them. Yeah, I see it.
yeah, those my babies, man.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that being said, like a strong black man in any form of fashion,
Mm-hmm.
you don't necessarily got to come from me in this for me to actually care about you and
Right.
love you and let you know that there's positive black energy from men that could be perpetuated throughout the community. I don't necessarily have to have you as a kid. I try to talk to kids. I tell people all the time, you want to make a difference today as a black man, teach a young man how to tie a tie. Teach him how to tie a tie.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple.
Yep.
And then, God bless my Uncle G, rest in peace. He taught me how to tie a tie when I was 10 years old. Every year since then, I've taught at least one person how to tie a tie from 10 to 36.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I don't know if I could teach somebody. I can put one on, but teaching somebody, woo, man. I can put it on, take it off, and put it on you. But hey,
That's real shit though. Last question I got for you, bro. So how has realizing your worth elevated your personal relationships or friendships or family relationships?
it makes the people around you respect you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know your worth, you will not be respected. they will run over you. And I'm speaking from experience because my family, they be on some bullshit. I know everybody got they family issues, but if you don't put your foot down and know, like I'm the oldest of my mother's children, so I was always looked to as that one to hold it down. And if I wasn't as strong a person that I am, they would just run over me.
Mm,
So in knowing my worth, I'm not gonna let you run over me.
mm.
And so now you're not gonna test me. And it's not about, oh, I think I'm this big bully. No, it goes back to knowing who not to test. You know, if you don't have a strong back, they just like I said, they just gonna run over you. My worth makes people know that I'm going to be respected. If you don't respect me, you're not in my life. Period.
And you know,
I give that same out too. I give that same respect out. That's the biggest thing.
you know what, and to add to that, because I leave with respect in all
Hmm.
aspects. But when I
Hmm.
got into the space of where I had a newfound respect for energy and peace of mind, my boundaries elevated to where my value and my worth elevated to where shit that people would probably get away with back then when I was taking care of my grandma and I couldn't do no bullshit because in my mind, who's gonna take care of her?
Hmm.
It became substantially more present that I gotta respect him. Like people go pretty much try you. They know who to try and who not to try in certain aspects.
Exactly.
Just like you just mentioned, they know who to try. And I think if you carry that aura and if you nip shit in the bud before it can even get to a certain space where they feel like they can try you,
Hmm.
you won't even have that issue to worry about again.
Yep.
And even when it comes to like dating, um, one of the things that I primarily get asked in terms of what would you expect from me or what would you want from me? Respect.
They,
Respect is the found.
they don't
Yeah,
get that. They don't get
it's
that.
just respect. Like
Mm.
respect. Like we can talk, we can have constructive conversations without the element of emotion and arguing and talking at each other instead of talking to each other.
Hmm.
Listening to understand instead of listening to respond. When you
Hmm.
have when you have that element of respect, all that other shit is abstracted from that. But if you just demonstrate that you just go let her just talk to you crazy, or he go talk to you crazy, and you just don't do nothing but in the sense of, all right, well, that's just her. No, like I want us to grow together. So, with that being said, that element of respect has to be present in order for us to even elevate and grow off of that.
But a lot of people don't know what respect is.
That's a fact. That's a
They don't
fact.
know what it is. Like I'll use, and I'm still not gonna say names,
Mm,
but I've had a family member that loved. He had a type, and his type was disrespectful women, and you just saw it,
okay.
and they just fit an mo, same after same after same, and looking at it, I'd be like, dude, in my head, I'm like, where's your respect? But I don't think he knew what his respect was
Mm,
until he finally realized it. Because I could tell him every time, hey man, why are you letting this particular person do this or say that or physically put their hands on you? How
mm,
and yeah, domestic violence the other way. We don't ever want to talk about that. But if you don't know what respect is, how can you even look for it? Because he finally, thank God, he finally got out of that fucking type and saw it. And because
yeah.
you can't make anybody see shit, they got to see it on their own. And when he finally saw it, he was like, "Damn, I see what you've been saying. Like, yeah, for 10 fucking years, but at least, at least you got it now. Now you see what respect is. Now you created a boundary. Your boundary is now you're not going to fuck with something that's like that now. So as soon as you meet this next person, and if they even start that, your respect is being built right there. If she don't respect it, bounce. like it, people don't know what respect is, and I think, like you said, people get to talking with emotion. You can't. Everything can't be about emotion. Yes, we have them, but everything can't be about emotion. Like I said earlier about the when someone says I feel like, you can't use that all the time. You're not going to get anywhere. You know, how do I say this without I think when someone says I feel like, it's a lot of scapegoating.
Mm,
They're not going to get down to what really needs to be said or done because they know the other person is more than likely correct, but they don't want to take the accountability aspect of that particular conversation.
mm,
And it's on us as men, as black men, if we're going to be positive and healed and healthy in these relationships. Because if we're supposed to take the role of leader, we have to lead with a good balance, a balance of respect and emotion. Because I'm not going to say you just take emotion off the table. Emotion is definitely a part of it. And then in that aspect, you have to be with someone that is willing to create a safe space.
mm,
Safe spaces are vital to healthy relationships because no one is 100% because no one is perfect. So if you can create that safe space for that person to come into and they can actually open up, you've now unlocked love, that
mm,
love that you wanted or needed. And everything is because everything is reciprocal. Any energy is reciprocal.
mm,
And if you get in and you just take, because that's what a lot of these relationships are. It's just nothing but taking, nothing but taking. And you're as much as you're taking, you're creating resentment. And it's nothing but resentment, and it's building, it's building, it's building. And no one knows when it's going to explode or how it's going to explode. And I'm never going to be around anybody that I feel like they're just going to keep taking. That as a black man, dealing with people and dealing with, our black women whom I love, but society is just teaching us wrong. Society's teaching black women wrong. Society's teaching black men wrong. If we stop listening and like I said, go back to that tradition thing, if we start listening and realizing, because I just said this the other day, what if what they taught us was wrong? Did you ever stop to think maybe it was wrong? And that's not for anything specific, but it could have been wrong. You need to analyze it for yourself and see, hey, is this conducive to my life? So maybe that's not right. And then that's how you deal with yourself and that's how you deal with other people.
And even with that being said, man, and you're right, like emotion doesn't have to be taken because you'll be denying yourself human nature in the
Mm-hmm,
sense of trying to abstract the emotion completely. It should be
mm-hmm,
controlled emotion,
mm-hmm,
engaged emotion in that aspect.
mm-hmm,
Um, but I'm with you, man. I'm with you. And a lot of this is just based off the minimal respect, respect for yourself, respect for others, and
mm-hmm.
value and self-worth will revolve around us in completion. But we have to be vulnerable enough with one another and can provide ourselves with the grace to even have that outlook of what our worth is,
Yeah,
working on your worth,
yeah,
building towards your worth. And
mm-hmm,
when you have that type of moment with yourself,
mm-hmm,
any and everything else is infinite, man.
yeah.
Infinite, real. Hey, bro, appreciate you, man. This is a very,
Oh,
very
I
healthy
thought we was just
conversation, man.
started, bro. We just
Hey,
getting
man,
started.
look. I wish it could go longer, bro. Look, but we gonna pick this up. We gonna
Okay.
pick this up. We gonna be back a few more times, man.
All right. Hey, I'm ready for it. I
All
like
right,
I said, thank you,
we got
Mr.
time.
Rogers, for having me on. I had a ball. My boy Deshaun. We go back like two flaps on the Cadillac. So we gonna talk some shit. We
Oh, we
just
got we got some
start.
more shit to talk. We got some
Yeah,
more shit to talk. Look,
start.
man, give everybody your social media handles, man. How anybody get in contact with you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram, DJ Dion313. Same on TikTok, on Facebook, Dionel Hicks, Deonnel. Book me. Hey, parties. I do them all. Parties, birthday parties, bar mitzvahs. I don't give a damn. I'm spinning these records, making people have fun. Go check me out. Shoot me a text. My phone number is 313-598-3098. Shoot me a text. I'm booking for summertime. I'm booking anytime. So like I said, I'm a couple gigs here and there. Down in Soul on Ice. It's I forgot the address, but if you want to come down there next week, we'll be down there having fun again. So
Hey man, once again, man, I appreciate you taking the time, man.
hey,
I
thank you
really
for having.
do. I really do. Well, it's gonna be the first of many, man. It's gonna be the first of many. We gonna have some stuff in the works too.
Okay, I appreciate it.
All right, bro.
All right, man. Love you.
Love you too, man. Be safe, brother.
All right.